Joining me today for our session on digital marketing. My name is Kristy. I'm a presenter and an advisor for Business Station as part of the Commonwealth Government's Digital Solutions Program. What I do on a day-to-day basis, aside from advising small businesses, largely in and around the digital marketing space. So we're going to go through a lot of that today, drawing on past experience, but we're going to touch on quite a few subjects or a few areas within the digital sort of topic space. Just keep in mind, this is designed to be as interactive as you'd like to make it. So please feel free to pop in questions through the chat functionality at any time. I'll also stay on at the end for a few minutes to answer any questions that you might have as well. Also keep in mind, we are going to go through a lot. So in terms of what we're going to cover, we're going to talk about the key components of online marketing and some must-dos in a range of different areas, including with websites, through your online business listings. We're going to look at search engine optimization, search engine marketing, touch on a bit of social media, and then finish with a little bit on email marketing. Now, a really key thing with this is that there is further information by way of advisory services, workshops, webinars in all of these topic areas. So like I said, we're going to be touching on them, but I would really encourage you with any of these areas, if you want to know more, certainly reach out to us, because we do have topic and webinars, workshops, and advisors that will offer a lot more detail on each individual element. So the purpose of today is to give you that broad overview and let you know that you certainly can reach out for more information at any time. Okay, so starting before we sort of get into some of those areas, first of all, looking at the online marketing benefits. Now, consumers use the internet to search and find a range of different businesses. They'll actively seek out information on your business. Now, this could be anything from your contact details to what products and services you have available or how to purchase your products and services. And they may actually want to transact online at a time that suits them. So there is a huge number of benefits in online marketing, but the key thing is that obviously it's global reach. So you can potentially reach a lot more people. It's 24/7, so that your business, whether it's e-commerce or if it's just purely a website for informational purposes, it is absolutely providing information to people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, online marketing can be very low cost or cost effective, and it can be really accessible to any size business or budget. Almost everything that we go through today and anything online can be done by yourself, or you can reach out for experts to assist. So I would say that there's no right or wrong. I personally have an in-depth understanding of a lot of these digital topics, but still choose to use experts in certain fields. And it can be a time versus cost sort of comparison as well. But certainly do consider that some of these things that we're going to talk about can be low or no cost to your business. The investment will be time. Now, in terms of anything that we do online, and the reason I absolutely love any kind of online marketing is that it is measurable, and those results that you can measure are really immediately available. So as things start happening, whether it's clicks, hits, with actually conversions or tracking sales, you can measure what's going on and make decisions based on the information that you're analyzing as well. Perhaps tweak campaigns or make some changes that will allow you to redirect your advertising, or perhaps take advantage of opportunities if things are going really well. You can also really accurately reach your target market. A key thing in marketing is obviously having defined your target market. So going back a step, you actually need to know specifically who it is that you're talking to. Once you know that information, it's very easy to input that into your digital marketing and tailor everything you do so that it speaks directly to your target market. And the last element of online marketing is it is an avenue where you can build really lasting relationships with your customers. So think about social media. It's not just a matter of someone transacting with you, perhaps online or face-to-face. You can now continue that relationship on by way of social media, keep that engagement going well beyond that point of sale, or even before they've reached the point where they're ready to transact or become your customer. Okay, so we're going to look at websites first, because websites really are at the core of your online marketing. You have to keep in mind it's only part of the strategy. Potential customers obviously need to be able to find your website. You also need to actively engage with current and future customers online by way of social media and other aspects of digital marketing. But your website really is at the core. So we will talk more about being found, but first, your website itself is a place where customers should be able to find out about your products and make purchases, even if your physical, your bricks and mortar premises are closed, or if you don't have a bricks and mortar store at all. So I would think of your website as your 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, your number one salesperson. So considering that, is your website doing your business justice? Is it selling your product or service as it should? So this is a really interesting thing. A lot of businesses, particularly small business, will say, you know, all right, if you're not an e-commerce type business, you might say, okay, I need a website. You'll develop that website and then just not really think about it again. So it becomes a bit of a set and forget sort of mentality. But considering that, this being your number one salesperson, your 24-hour a day, 7-day a week salesperson, is it actually doing you justice? So to consider a few elements is an absolute must. Now, I would think about the purpose of your website. What is your website designed to do, and cater it to the needs of the user that will actually be using it. So is it to transact? Is it to make bookings? Is it to find your location? And adapt the content based on specifically what it is that customers are going to your website to do. By way of communication, people should be able to get your information quickly and easily. There should be enough information on your website so that people don't have to call you to find different things, but not too much that there is just a huge number of words that people are sifting through trying to find the information. So a nice balance there, ensuring that at all times that info can be obtained quickly and easily. Images, your images have to position your brand correctly. They have to be professional images, I would say, or high quality images, and they have to be true to your product. A lot of small businesses get into the trap of using stock images, and while sometimes they're okay, really what customers are wanting to see is an accurate and true representation of the business that they're going to engage with. So real people, real settings, and focusing on your target market. That overall look, the images really tell part of the picture of the overall look, as do fonts, colors. It all has to really meet your brand and match your brand. So what people see offline has to be the same as what they see offline. It has to suit your target market. So really think about that. Think about that overall look and make sure that it is, with all of those elements I mentioned, speaking to your key target audience. Navigation is another element. So how easy is it to take various steps around your website or to take action, whether that be a booking, it be an actual transaction, or just finding your location. Normally, we would recommend an F pattern by way of navigation in the menus, so top to bottom and left to right. So consider that. That is the most simple sort of navigation, most widely recognized. I do see some businesses that have all kinds of creative navigation on their website, and it may or may not work for your business. But again, know your target market and know what works for them. Load time is really important, obviously, for the user. You don't want to send users to your website where they're sitting waiting for things to load, because they're going to get off that site pretty quickly. And for that reason, it's actually a really important SEO factor as well. So we'll talk a bit about SEO, but load time from a customer perspective and overall design, it's crucial. Being mobile friendly is also important. Now, what you see on your screen is an example of a responsive website. Now, a responsive website will adapt its size and shape based on the screen that the user is actually viewing it on. So menus, structures will change, and overall navigation will change, and you can sort of see an example of that there. So that's really important. If you've ever tried to use a non-responsive or a non-mobile friendly site on a mobile device, it's really, really difficult to take any kind of action. So do consider that. And that is also a really important factor for SEO as well, which I'll touch on. But keep in mind that everything about your website, which I have just said, but should be speaking to and aimed at your target market. So that's your design, your colors, your fonts, your technology, your functionality, absolutely everything. It should be who you're aiming your marketing towards. So from a marketing sort of 101 perspective, really know who your target market is at the before you even go and look at any kind of web design. So having a great website is very important. People do have to find it. That's where SEO comes into it. But just in terms of the website build, and as I mentioned, we do have webinars on different types of content management systems for websites and that kind of thing. But people do often ask, should I build it myself? Should I get a developer? There's no right or wrong. Again, it comes down to what your budget is, what your skills are, and what time resources you have available. There's some very user-friendly content management systems that, you know, allow you to kind of drag and drop so you can very easily build a website. Others will supply templates so you can template something that suits your needs, or you could work with a developer. Now, if you are planning to work with a developer, there are, you know, a lot of developers out there. Some are great, some not so great. It's one of those industries and it's intangible to a certain extent. So, you know, you have to be quite confident and comfortable with that web developer before you actually get to see or experience a product, but you can do your research. Keep in mind, costs for developers will vary depending on functionality, but always see their past projects to see if their overall style and what they've built in the past actually works for you. Certainly make the effort to understand their level of expertise as well. What sort of experience have they had with the type of content management system you've chosen, or the functionality that you require. When you do start engaging with them, make sure that the process is very transparent in terms of timelines, what costs, what the price includes, you know, how many pages, how many revisions, what's going to be required of you, because you'll have to supply a lot of the content, and also what it includes. Does it include any SEO, or is it just web design? You know, will you have to load up images? There's so many elements to it, but just really make sure that is very transparent. I would always recommend that you have a website built in a content management system. That way, as technology changes, you're able to keep up to date with latest, you know, they will have regular updates and that kind of thing, and making sure that your website is still working on various browsers. If you can engage with them face-to-face, whether that be by Zoom like we're doing now, or even a phone call, but that verbal communication I find is really important. You know, there will be a lot back and forth by email, but, you know, sometimes it helps just to pick up the phone and say, look, this is our requirements, and sort of run through it like that, or this is what I'm thinking. So obviously, you know, an extra element of communication always helps as well. All right, now in terms of what sort of things should be on your website, obviously content is really important. Content should be aimed for the customer and actually converting the customer, but it should also really be aimed at SEO as well. So your website actually ranking well for key search terms. So there's two sides to content. In terms of how well your website's going to rank, keyword research is absolutely crucial. Now, keyword research, we have an entire webinar on keyword research because it's such an important part of your digital marketing or any kind of online marketing. But keyword research is basically the process of searching for key terms that are going to appeal, that your customers are going to be searching, proving that there's volumes around them, and then you build your website towards where the volume is. So let's say I had a cafe or a restaurant, and I didn't do any keyword research. So I just sort of thought, you know, people might be searching for restaurant in Perth or whatever that might be. And I build this whole website around that, and I rank really well for that term, only to find out later that there's actually nobody each month searching for that particular term or the terms that I've aimed my website towards. It would be a complete waste of effort. So you need to aim your marketing and your SEO and the content on your website and everything about your website to where people are actually searching. So really have to prove those volumes. Now, keyword research is a bit of brainstorming, thinking, you know, what do I think my customers actually search to get to my business? And then you use tools to back it up, prove what the search volumes are. Are there 300 searches per month on those terms? Are there 10,000 searches per month? And really finding the terms that work for your business that aren't too broad. So they have to be specific enough that it's actually going to end up being your customers that are searching and therefore your website showing up. So keyword research, like I said, it's its own topic. Absolutely have a look at that webinar that we provide. It's one of my favorite topics because it is the key to all of your marketing, from your website design to the look to how you communicate. So keep that in mind. Now, content-wise, it again has to talk to your target audience. Your content should always be original to you and original on each page as well, so not repeated information. Your information should be succinct and straight to the point. You should absolutely use headlines to grab people's attention so that they're not trying to digest a large number of words. The headlines kind of break up the content with what's most important and, you know, what are secondary sort of areas. Bullet points also help to break up content as well, and to break up large sentences as well. Bullet points can be great. In all instances, you would hyperlink keywords to other areas of your website. So for example, if your homepage starts to talk about your range of, you know, you've got product A, B, and C, absolutely, as people are hovering over product A, they should be able to click straight through to that page. Takes the effort out of it for the customer. They don't have to go up to the menu, find product A and click. So they're just one click and straight through. But always make sure that you proofread any content on your website. So that is absolutely crucial. Now, in terms of functionality and accessibility, headings are really important. And I mentioned headings to draw people's attention to various content. Now, I've got a little note of H1, H2 on the screen there. Now that relates to SEO. So I'll talk more about that when we get to SEO, but keep your consistency of heading. So if you always have a heading that's, you know, this size on your product pages, keep it consistent across those product pages so that as people go through your website, it's got that overall feel of consistency. All internal pages of your website should be accessible in 3 clicks or less. That's a good rule to follow, rather than trying to get people sort of hidden deeper into sites. Your home link, your logo should always be your home link. You don't have to have a home button as such. Just a link via your logo is very widely accepted. People know no matter where they are on a website, they should be able to click your logo and it will take them home. Make your call to actions very clear and obvious. Now, if your call to action is to pick up the phone or if it's to buy now, book now, contact us, you know, whatever that might be, repeat it often and make sure that it is very, very clear. So for example, let's say your call to action was to get people to book an appointment with you. Rather than just having it on your, you know, you might have your session page, for example, just having that booking button at the bottom of that, have it on the home page, have it on the header of every page so that they might have a look at it, a bit of information on what you offer, what sessions you offer. Then they might go to your About Us page. Then they might go to your location. You don't know at what point is that person ready to make that booking. So have those buttons very easily available so that they can just click it and make that booking whenever it suits them. I would also recommend to use traditional navigation. So consistent navigation on all pages is absolutely crucial. We touched on navigation, but that F pattern, traditional, it tends to work and it is pretty straightforward. So keep that in mind. Now, we also touched on branding, but just to expand on branding a little bit, your message, your brand message should be clear. Your brand should be consistently represented throughout your website. Your logo should be high quality and predominantly placed on each and every page. Your images should represent your brand correctly. And again, if you can, you need to steer away from stock images and get imagery that is a true representation of your product or service. Your color scheme should be solid and it should really connect with your brand and speak to your target market. And use taglines throughout your website, powerful taglines that engage people and help them to relate to what they actually need. And calls to action I mentioned, so they should be predominantly placed on your homepage and on your subpages. Now, in terms of the overall layout of your website, your layout width is really important. It should meet current standards, which is around, the current standard is around 960 pixels, and that's of your active page area, not the backgrounds. The layout should be modern, it should be clean, easy to read and easy to navigate. And it should look fresh. Your content should be organized in sections, subsections, so that it is really clear for people to find what they need. Your homepage should feature your most important content. From your homepage, users should be able to get that real sense of who you are, just by really from the instant visual. So within a couple of seconds. Now, it only takes about 1 to 2 seconds for a web user to form an opinion or a first impression on a business, and they do that from the homepage. So you might have heard of bounce rates, which is how many people bounce straight off your website without taking any further action. And this is really largely impacted by what they see at that homepage. So really make sure that your homepage sells your business at that level and is engaging enough that people want to find out more at that point. Your subpages are then important as well. Obviously, they have to have consistent layouts, and they should, the pages within subpages should be easy to find. They shouldn't be too deep within your site. So going back to that 3 clicks or less rule. You should have a footer that has things like your contact information, sometimes a repetition of your main navigation menu as well, but down the bottom. So those footers are important. And then overall navigation, which we've touched on. So making it easy to find your main pages and your sub pages when you're on any given site of your website, any given page of your website, I should say. Now, those interactive elements that you might have on your site are the buttons. So buttons to help guide people through the site, calls to action, directing that user to take this obvious action that you want them to take. Or anything clickable. So whether you've got internal links that are clickable, it could be images that are clickable, or anything else, make it obvious that they can actually click them. So normally when you hover over, your cursor will change, or a word might be underlined to symbolize that it is something clickable. So make that obvious, and also include your social icons. Either in your header or your footer, depending on how much prominence you want to give to social media, but really giving that cross-promotional opportunity. So that opportunity to get people over to your socials so that you can continue a conversation with them well after the point that they've actually visited your website. Okay, so now we're going to look at SEO. We've used the term SEO a couple of times, but for those that don't know what it is, it stands for search engine optimization. So in very simple terms, it's the process of improving your site to increase its visibility for relevant searches. So web bots will crawl your site and they will do that to understand what your website and what your business is all about. They'll then index your pages in their database and then list your website pages on the first page of results for relevant key search terms. That obviously results in more exposure to your target market, providing you've done that keyword research before you've done any SEO work or made any changes to your website. So you need to know what people are actually searching to get to your website. So I would really encourage you to reach out via Business Station to have a look at that keyword research webinar that we offer as another free webinar, because it is fascinating in terms of all of the things that you can do to really define what your key search terms are. In terms of SEO, I should just say that keyword research proves those search volumes. So the next step of that is to improve your rankings for those key search terms. And that's sort of how SEO comes into it. Now, good SEO is a culmination of hundreds of different tactical efforts. It does change and evolve, so that things that may have resulted in great rankings even just a few years ago may not be as significant now. So it is important that you're continually looking at your SEO. It's not one of those set and forget things. It's something that you have to continually look at. It does take time. Normally you'd allow at least a month before you start to see any results, or a few weeks to a month. But because it constantly changes, you have to keep abreast of any latest algorithms or any changes from an SEO perspective and modify your website or the content or your SEO program accordingly. Now, SEO includes two elements, on-page and off-page SEO. Now, on-page SEO is everything that happens on your website, whereas off-page SEO is everything that happens away from your website that directs people back to your site. So we'll start with on-page SEO. And like I said, in terms of everything we're covering today, there are in-depth webinars, workshops, and obviously advisory services that will expand on this. So this is an absolute fly through of SEO. SEO is actually quite complex. And like I said, there's hundreds of different factors that will impact how well your website ranks. So we're just going to go over some of the top ones. On-page SEO, it's everything that happens on your site that affects the ranking. So the very first thing is a readable URL. So I'll show you an example of this shortly. Good internal links, so page-to-page linking of relevant content. So for example, like I mentioned, your homepage talks about your product range and that links to a specific page, etc. 301 redirects are really important as well. Now that is like a postal redirection, for example. Let's say you take a page down or make a page, delete a page from your website, rather than people potentially going to a page where they're going to get a 404 error, you want to redirect them to another page of your website. So they're still going on your website, still having a user experience. They're not getting an error at a particular page. Page load time is really important. Definitely keep an eye on your speed. Your image sizes can impact that. Unused code in the back end can impact that. So make sure you test it regularly. Now, Google has a great tool where you can test your page speed. So it's just look up Google page speed tool. There's also page title tags, there's meta descriptions, there's alt tags. So we're going to expand on all of this. So I'll show you some examples. Now, first of all, the readable URLs. This is an example. So you've got businessstation.com.au/training as opposed to businessstation.com.au/ and a code. Now, sometimes a content management system, when you create a new page, it'll automatically give you a URL and it will be something codey like that. So really just keep an eye on that, but make sure that they're readable, they make sense, and use your keyword research in it as well. So if that businessstation.com.au, it could say _Perth-training or something along those lines. Internal links. So on the left-hand side, you can see, I mentioned a couple of things about links. Obviously, internal linking is really important for SEO. So the way Google and other search engines see it, if you can make it an easy and a pleasant experience for the visitor or the user of the website, then it will be, obviously it's good for them. They'll be happy, and therefore that ticks a big box for Google. But do make them obvious. You can see in this example, the words self-contained apartment and fully equipped function rooms are both obviously different. So you hover over them and yes, it's obvious that it's a link. There's probably more opportunity on this particular page, this example, where you could add more internal links, but they've got two there. And the 301 redirects I mentioned, that's really just informing the search engine that if someone does try to go to an old page, actually don't give them an error message, send them to another page. Then we've got page title tags. So each of the pages in your website should have its own unique title tag. Now that title tag should include the main keywords for that page. So it's not the headline that's displayed on the page. It is only visible in code view or through your content management system. But Google and other search engines will use it to display as the main title in their search results. For example, if you are searching, in this case, it was Digital Solutions Perth, what you can see there comes up on the screen. So what's in the red box? Now, the optimal length of a title tag is only 60 characters. So it's not much, but it is long enough to display a good title without it getting cut off. So don't use words like the, is, and, so those kind of stock words. The preferred format is to put your primary keywords first and then subsequent keywords. So this is a critical factor for Google and other search engine web bots. Good page title tags will really help how well you rank with key search terms. However, it's also really important for the consumer because the more appealing this title is, the more likely it is to be clicked, which means people will get through to your website. So you want to make sure it makes sense, because your ultimate goal is to get people to click through to your website. The bottom section that you see in the red there is your meta description. So this is not visible in any part of your site except in, again, HTML code. Now, depending what content management system you use, there's probably an SEO plugin or an area where you can actually very clearly and easily just input your title tags and meta descriptions. But this is the little description that's found under your title tag in search results like this. So it doesn't actually affect your ranking in search engines, but it's like a mini ad for your webpage, and it's free. So if it's well written, it could encourage people to click through to your site, which then obviously means that you've got more traffic to your site and hopefully customers. A really key thing to keep in mind with your meta description is that if you don't enter a meta description for your pages, for all of your pages, then Google does it for you. Now, how Google does it is it takes a small sample of the text from your page. Sometimes it might not be what you'd like it to be. Sometimes it could be cut off or not really relevant. So make sure you take control of that. Now, this is a very quick and easy win from a conversion perspective. So getting people, when they see your result come up in a search engine, to actually click through. So do make sure that you only use 160 characters, and that will ensure that the text doesn't get cut off. Don't use the same meta description for every page of your website. Every page of your website should be, well, every page of your website is unique anyway. Therefore, the meta description should be unique. So to be descriptive to what that particular page is about. So keep that in mind. Then we've got alt tags and heading tags. Now, alt tags are used for images. Now, these are the HTML tags that you can use to describe what an image is. So search engines can't see an image as such. So without a description, a written description of the image, they really have no idea what it's about or if it's relevant to the key search terms. Now, if Google web bots can find your image because it's correctly labeled, it obviously could appear in a Google Images search, but it is really important to build the SEO credibility for that particular page of your site as well. So I would say with your images, include local keywords. So what kind of keywords have you been trying to rank for on that particular page, and then what the image is as well. So this again is a very basic example of SEO and something that you see all the time. People have these images and they have no image description or alt tag in them. So make sure you take control of that. As and where and how you do that will really depend on your content management system. Depending on what content management system you've used. Otherwise, you could speak to a developer if you've got a custom site. But most people will have the ability to easily update the alt tag of images through their content management system. On the right-hand side, we've got heading tags. Now, I have touched on headings a couple of times. So headings are really important for the user, but they're also important for SEO. From a user perspective, they help the reader of your content to really draw their eyes to relevant sections. So if you open a page and you've got a large heading at the top, that could be your H1, but that's really telling the user what the entire page is about. So you've got to tell Google as well, say this is our H1 heading, this is what the entire page is about. Therefore, it's more heavily weighted than any subsequent headings. Subsequent headings might be what particular sections are about. So you might have an H2, an H3, an H4, and so on and so forth. So from a user perspective, web readers or your customers will glance over a page. And so those headings, the bigger, obviously will draw their eyes to specific topics. And it's similar with search engines. They'll use those heading tags as indicators of context. So what's on the page and how does it relate to what the user might be searching for? So keyword research should really dictate what the nature of some of your headings are as well. So have a look at that structure and just keep in mind they are weighted. So if you're nominating a particular heading as an H1 heading, you're telling Google and other search engines that this is the most important information on this page. All right, then we've got off-page SEO. Now, off-page SEO, I'm just waiting for that to come up. Oh, went too far. Off-page SEO, or also known as off-site SEO. This is any actions that are taken outside of your own website that will impact your rankings within your search engine result page. Now, generally speaking, off-page SEO will make up the majority of your SEO strategy. On-page SEO, you can do some thorough keyword research, make some good changes to your website, and then just keep on top of it and review it. Whereas off-page SEO requires ongoing work and effort to really build the credibility of your website. So you want your website to rank above others that have a similar message. So to achieve that, you have to build its credibility or its authority. Now, a number of ways that you can do that exist. First of all, link building. Link building is essentially the process of getting external pages to link to a page on your website. Now, link building can be complicated. Sometimes it can be time consuming. Not all links are the same or, have the same strength. So a link from a more authoritative website is going to make a lot greater impact on your search engine results than a link from a newly built or a low quality site. But essentially, search engines, like Google, will count all the links coming into your website. They'll give more weight to quality links and then rank you accordingly. So if your site was to have 100 poor quality links, but your competitor that had exactly the same content had 15 good quality links, then there's a good chance that they'll rank a lot higher than you. So keep that in mind. Google has become really good at spotting scams as well. So you used to be able to do all kinds of dodgy things and buy links and, get random sites to link back to your website, but you just can't do that. You have to have good quality links. And generally speaking, a good quality link will come from a trusted or a reputable site or a site that's related to your type of business. Normally, they'll be difficult to come by and there might be some kind of human intervention. So think about memberships and that kind of thing. If you're a member of a particular organization, perhaps they want to link back to your website, business listings, that sort of thing. Normally, they will be likely to be clicked by the reader or add some kind of value to the reader. So they want to be, you don't just want a list of, all the businesses that you work with, so have a business directory page where you've just got this list of all these links. So those kind of things just can't really be done anymore. But some ways of earning good backlinks. First of all, organic backlinks are great. And you really get these through good quality content. So that's when, let's say you've written a blog and someone is so impressed by your content that they either link to it from their own blog or their own website or their social media, or they share it. They're only going to make that decision if the content's relevant, unique, useful, educational. So really think about your content, what you're producing, and make sure that it is at a high standard. You can add to your blog pages and publish articles and that kind of thing, and then advertise them through social media so that people can find your content as well, but make that content engaging and shareable. You can build backlinks. Networking, relationship building is a good way to build backlinks, but you need some kind of plan of action. I would be looking at making contact with other website owners or managers and asking for a link to your content, particularly if it's someone that you work with within your day-to-day. Perhaps you're a stockist for someone or they're a stockist for you or something like that, or other businesses that you do work alongside. So that's obviously another great way. You can create inbound links yourself by adding your website to different business directories. Now, this is a bit of an easy win. I'm going to talk about some essential business listings shortly, but think about all of the potential business listings that you might be able to have for your business, and try and get your business added, particularly if there's free opportunities. So it's more than, well, one thing is that you might actually get business as a result of a business listing, but from an SEO perspective, it creates a bit of a backlink, which is fantastic. Now, one of the easiest ways, and I think a way that's quite often overlooked in terms of how to get backlinks, is to research your competitors. So Google your competitor and see what websites they come up for. Now, if those websites are relevant to your business, have a look at them and see if their same opportunity might exist for you. It's a really good way to generate some links and get some ideas. There's also non-link related off-page SEO. Obviously, these backlinks and any links from external websites are the most commonly practiced off-page SEO, but any activity that occurs outside of your own website that helps improve your search ranking could be thought of off-page SEO. Now, that's social media marketing. It could be blogging, guest blogging on other websites. It could be any brand mentions or influencer marketing that you're doing. So keep an eye out for that. Now, if you do find that you've had a brand mention that's unlinked, then don't forget, you can always try and contact that company and ask them to put a working link in place if possible. And hopefully they oblige. If they're willing to mention your business name, then hopefully it's not too much to ask to get a link as well, because it really does help with SEO. Okay, now looking at business listings, I've touched on a couple of these. From an SEO perspective, they're really important to get these backlinks, as I mentioned. There are a few essential sort of online business listings that we'd recommend. Google My Business is a great one. It's now actually called Google Business Profile. So you'll notice a bit of a transition, but a lot of people still refer to it as Google My Business. But that's Google Places, Google Search, so it's all as part of that one platform. And obviously, Places is the maps. So make sure that you've got that set up and optimized. And you know, as I was saying before, we've got webinars on all kinds of topics. And one of them is just all about Google Business Profile and how to set up the very best Google profile. So absolutely keep an eye out for that. Any other review sites that might be relevant to your business? Obviously, you have a review as part of your Google listing, but you've got social media. There's other industry specific, which could be Yelp, it could be Urban Spoon, it could be TripAdvisor, just depending on the industry that you're in. But make sure that you've got your business listings set up on those review sites. Chances are your customers are going to use the review sites that they are most familiar with or want to use. So you could already have a presence on review sites, even if you haven't claimed the listings. Then there's other business directories like Yellow Pages, TrueLocal, Yelp. There's tons of them, but they would probably be my top 3. So I would consider and make sure that you do have some kind of presence on all of those online business listing sites. And then, of course, social media. So social media, you should be on the platforms that are most relevant to your target market. Now, the key thing about all of these business listings and what's really going to help for local SEO, so if you're trying to get people to your store or to your business from a local area, is having a consistent name, address, and phone number, and obviously website. It's a critical factor for local ranking. So I would say don't do directory listings or local SEO without that consistent address. Now, some businesses don't have a physical address. It will put you in a disadvantage for local search only. Local listings do play a really important role in making your business more visible in that local search, because a lot of the searches are around, well, will be relevant to your location. So let's say if you were to go into Google now and search, Chinese restaurant, for example, it's going to use that local search information, name, address, phone number, what's in this specific local area. It's not going to tell you, businesses outside of that area in the first instance. So keep in mind to have a look at those directories. I really can't stress enough what a good SEO tactic this is. Australian business directories aren't just for boosting local rankings though. They can provide referral traffic from people clicking through from the listing. So there is 2 sides of it, but I would always focus on it for the SEO factor in the first instance. So that's it for business listings. We're not going to go into detail on pay per click now, which is SEM, search engine marketing, other than to talk quickly about remarketing. I will just say though, if you're looking at any kind of pay per click campaign, PPC, pay per click, Search engine marketing is great. It's very cost effective. It can be immediate. It's flexible. It can obviously be tracked. So I would certainly encourage you to consider that. But if you were to do nothing else, then I would certainly look at remarketing. So SEO is ranking organically when people search, and search engine marketing is where you can set up advertising and then pay per click. Remarketing is a form of pay-per-click advertising, and it's available through the Google Ad Network. Basically what it is, and you can see by the image on your screen how it sort of works. So a prospect will come to your website a number of ways. They may see your car driving past, they may do a search, they may see you on social media, someone may say to them, you know, check out this business. However they get to your website, they do. When they're on your website, they're tracked. Then once they leave, they could leave for whatever reason. They could get distracted, they could be looking at competitors, whatever happens. But once they go onto other sites that have Google advertising space, you have the opportunity of advertising to them. It's a great reminder. It is a very simple concept in terms of reinforcing your brand to people that have already visited your site. So they're tracked when they left, your ads then appear in those banners or pop-ups on other sites that they browse. So very straightforward. You only pay when they actually click those ads, and therefore they're going back to your website. So you think, you know, generally speaking, you would imagine that because they've already been to your site, now they're clicking to get back through, they're probably serious to continue their search or take some further action. That's why it works so well. So you don't ever, you know, in all my experience in terms of remarketing, I've never seen a remarketing campaign that's blown a budget or anything like that. They are always very, very reasonably priced. Impressions don't cost anything. It's pay per click. So it's only once they click. So you will most definitely have been a recipient of remarketing. You may have noticed it, you may have not. Some of the bigger companies are quite a bit more aggressive than smaller companies in terms of how often you see the ads, for the repetition and how many days you see it for. And you can get that feeling of really being stalked. But you know, if it's done effectively, you know your target market, you know your customers. So keep that balance with what you know is going to work for them. Okay, social media, we're going to quickly touch on social media. We have got tons of workshops and webinars on social media, but I will just say that social has made a huge impact on all industries because customers engage with social networking sites for a range of reasons. It could be to research products or services, certainly to make informed decisions about purchases or whether or not they want to engage with a business, also to share their personal experiences. So the user-generated content is what comes as a result, and it's seen by consumers and by the online community as a lot more credible and authentic. So do keep that in mind. We can have a look at a business's website and that'll tell us what the business wants us to see, whereas you start to go onto their socials and you start to get that feedback from other customers. So it is a little bit more authentic in that sense. I would really focus your efforts with social media though. So think about the channels that are accessed by your target markets and focus your efforts there. You have to understand who your target markets are and what people matter most for you, and then build content for them. Now that content should be snackable content, so it's not designed to be long-winded. It's small bite-sized pieces of content where you're really focusing on engagement. So engagement is key in what you're ultimately after. You want that engagement with them. You don't just want to be posting and it's not a promotional tool where it's all outward. You want some kind of engagement there by way of likes, comments, shares. When there are comments present, you want to be back on there engaging with that customer, answering questions or having that true conversation. It's called social media for a very good reason. It is designed to be social. So it's not designed to be a promotional platform where it's just outward advertising. It's designed to be a conversation. So engagement is absolutely key. You do need to keep in mind that social media sends signals to search engines like Google. So it really does help with your SEO as well. So the more interaction, more engagement that you have on social media, the better it is for your SEO as well. I would consider reaching out. Obviously, you want to engage with your customers, but also engage with your industry. If you have any membership organizations or authoritative organizations to your industry, make sure that you're engaging with them and providing them content that they can share to their members as well. But first and foremost, it is a visual language. So it's all about images, video, and always consider mobile first, because the large majority of people are accessing social media on mobile devices. So reach out for more info on social, because it is one of those topics that is so in depth. There's so many different platforms now, so you've got to really understand what platforms are perfect for you and then focus your efforts on those platforms. You can't be on everything. You simply wouldn't have the time to do it and do it well. So you have to be where your customers are. Now, just to touch on email marketing, and this is kind of the final element of what we're going to go through today. Now, with email marketing, it is a fantastic form of marketing and a great way to connect with your customers. There's a range of software that you can access that's very cost effective and also effective from a usability perspective. But always keep in mind, with your email marketing, it's all about personalization. So if you're going to go to the effort of obtaining a database, you want to be personal when you start communicating with that database. So you want to make sure that you are providing information that's relevant to the customer based on what you know about them. And this, you can do this through segmentation and knowing your audience, so that you're sending them information that appeals to them based on, it could be their demographics, it could be their geographic location, past purchases, that kind of thing. You're not always there to promote. So you want to provide them with useful information, add value to their day. It could be tips, hints, it could be other useful content, and then a little bit of promotion is okay. But if it's always just salesy, you might find that you lose that engagement with your database. So people won't be opening, they won't be clicking, they won't be taking any kind of action, or certainly won't be sharing your content. Unsubscribes aren't always a bad thing. They can be good. You don't want people on your database that aren't engaged with your brand. And what you see here is a lot of businesses will do things like prize giveaways to get a big database, which is, yeah, you'd certainly get the numbers, but are they engaged, or are they just joining because they want something for free? And then what you might find is you announce the winner, and that gets a lot of interaction, big open rate, that kind of thing. But next time you email that database, there's lots of unsubscribes, because no one wanted to be there in the first place. They just wanted to get the free thing. So really think about how you build the database, quality over quantity in all instances. So don't get caught up on having 20,000 people on your database if they're all there for the wrong reason. So you really want that engagement. Similar to social media, engagement is absolutely key. When you are sending anything to or from your database, your subject line is absolutely crucial to make sure that people actually open it. But what's probably more important, or equally as important, is the from name. So let's say I'm a member of, a local business, and the first time I get an email, so I agree to sign up because I do want to find out what they've got going on, what events and whatnot. But the first time I sign up, I get an email from John Smith, which happens to be their marketing manager. So I don't recognize that name. It's starting to look possibly a bit spammy. So that from name, you always have to get that right and make it relevant to how the person actually signed up. If they signed up to business XYZ, then the email has to come from that exact same business name. And then obviously your subject line is this next thing that's most extremely important, because you need people to want to find out more. It can't just be monthly newsletter from company XYZ. It would have to be something that creates a bit of a hook, and going back to what information, tips, hints, what useful content are you providing to your audience, and give them a bit of a taster of that in the subject line. So that's email marketing. And again, we have an entire webinar on this topic. So I'd encourage you to reach out more. But that is it for me in terms of digital marketing, and really the basics, or a broad overview of what sort of aspects there are of digital marketing that you have to consider. Everything that happens in a digital sense can absolutely be measured. So make sure that you're tracking all of your results. Make sure you've got some kind of monthly reporting in place so that you can look at things like hits to your website, the time on your site. You can look at engagement with social media posts, how many opens you're getting on newsletters, all of that information that's happening in a digital sense. Bring it together with your own reporting so that you can keep a close eye on it and measure your results and therefore adapt future campaigns accordingly. Now, this session was presented to you today as part of the Digital Solutions Commonwealth Government funded program. If you do want any more info or to reach out to any of our advisors, you can absolutely do so through the program. You can get one-on-one advice about anything that we've spoken about today, plus a range of other topics. It's just $44, and that gives you a package of 3 one-on-one sessions plus a range of workshops and webinars. So I would highly recommend that you sign up if you haven't already before the program ends a little bit later this year. There is a bit of eligibility around that. So you have to be based in WA, Queensland or NT with an ABN registered in one of those states. You have to be operating for profit and employ fewer than 20 full-time staff. So if that's you, follow that link that you've got on the screen and certainly connect with one of our advisors. We've got close to 100 advisors that all specialize in different areas. So reach out for that one-on-one advice, but obviously for other workshops and webinars as and when you can. I'll stay on now to answer any questions, so please shoot them through by way of the chat functionality. But thanks so much for joining me today and good luck with your digital marketing.